Hi everyone and welcome back or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Amy and I have an unhealthy obsession with Formula One. This weekend was the Hungarian Grand Prix, so let's talk about it. But first, here's your championship update. Max Verstappen has continued to extend his lead at the top of the drivers, now 80 points ahead of his closest rival Charles Leclerc. George Russell is now in fourth, getting ahead of the Ferrari driver of Carlos Sainz. Other than that, there hasn't really been any movement throughout the top 10. In the Constructors, Red Bull lead Ferrari by a considerable margin, as Mercedes have started to close in on the Scuderia. In the midfield fight for fourth, Alpine have continued to stay ahead of McLaren, but more on that later. A major talking point for this weekend was tyres, and more importantly, warming them up. In the race, we saw many drivers struggling for pace on the hard tyre, and in practice, Mercedes were miles off on both the intermediates and the wets. The soft tyre runners also struggled during the first stint. However, towards the end of the race, we saw Lewis Hamilton absolutely light those tyres up, and who knows, within a couple of laps, he could have even been challenging for the win. Whilst we're on the topic of Mercedes, another incredible double podium for the Silver Arrows, despite all Ferraris and Red Bulls finishing the race. As I mentioned earlier, they were nowhere in free practice, but qualifying was a completely different story, with George Russell securing his first pole position. In the race, he was able to put up a solid defense against the charging Ferraris. However, he eventually fell back to finish the race in third, just ahead of Sainz. Lewis Hamilton, on the other hand, started in fifth after a DRS issue in qualifying. Luckily, he was able to get past the likes of Norris during the opening stint of the race. During his second stop in a Mercedes strategy masterclass, he pitted for the soft tyres, and with the fresher, faster compound, he was able to overtake both Ferraris to finish the race in second. With the recent run of form, Mercedes is just behind Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, and in my opinion, will finish ahead of them. Now onto the Scuderia. Yet another strategy blunder for Ferrari. It's actually ridiculous at this point. You know that the tyre is awful, so why put Leclerc onto them when he was clearly comfortable in the mediums and could have extended and just got onto the softs at the end? I get you were trying to cover up Red Bull, I get you were trying to cover off Mercedes, but Leclerc was so much more comfortable on those mediums, he had so much pace, and he definitely could have gone like Carlos. At least they got Carlos' strategy right. Not his pit stop, that was slow, but they got his strategy right, so it's something. Even the drivers knew that the tyre was awful. In the cool down room, they were all just laughing at Ferrari. They don't have access to all the information that you do, and they still knew that that hard tyre was awful. And now they're laughing at your strategists. Now I don't know who does Ferrari's strategy, but at this point it's clear a change is definitely needed. Something needs to change if they want to start winning this year. They have the cars to do it, they have the drivers to do it, they just need a good strategy. And looking ahead to this new era of Formula One, if Ferrari wants to be on top, that's what they need to change, their strategy. A very different fate befell Red Bull this weekend, with Sergio and Max starting 11th and 10th respectively, after the numerous issues in qualifying, from track limits that saw laps deleted then reinstated, engine issues for Max 2 during Q3. It just wasn't a good time for them. And at a track that's meant to be very hard to overtake at, this was meant to be more of a damage limitation race for Max. However, he spun and still won, with a solid gap of about 3 seconds, I believe, over Hamilton, so incredible scenes at one of the best drives we have ever seen from the defending world champ. The first time he has won starting from 10th, and I believe it's only the second time in the history of the Red Bull team that they've won starting outside of the top 6. So it's not something that happens often, but when it does, the scenes, incredible. And it's fair to say that Max solidly deserves to win the championship this year. Perez, on the other hand, finished 5th ahead of Leclerc. Considering he started 11th, this is still a really solid result, and allows him to retain 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. In the midfield, the battle for 4th between McLaren and Alpine continues to heat up. Let's start with Alpine. There were a few issues, let's say, for the French team that cost them several points this weekend. First, they went onto the hard tyres. Again, clearly the worst tyre, and this allowed both Aston Martins to overtake them. However, by doing this, they were able to avoid a second pit stop, so it kind of worked out in the end. Second, the sheer amount they fought with one another, both in the opening stages and then again around the pit stops, which allowed Daniel Ricciardo to pull a cracking move past both Alpines in one corner. Simply beautiful. McLaren, on the other hand, were up there for most of the weekend. Lando qualified in 4th and was able to lock in a solid 7th place ahead of both Alpines. Ricciardo, however, received a penalty for an incident with Stroll, resulting in him being pushed back down to 15th, meaning that the teams each scored 4 points and the gap stayed the same. And last but definitely not least, we need to talk about Sebastian Vettel. Seb announced his retirement. Now, I found this out at work. I was on my break, scrolling through my phone, the whole internet was going off. I almost had a breakdown right there. Yeah, he is such an incredible driver in person, a true icon in the sport, and hugely respected by everyone. He also scored points this weekend, so yeah, good job. Might have to do a whole separate video just on Seb and his incredible career, 4-time world champion. He will be missed. And as I record this, Alonso was just announced as his replacement last night. Who saw that coming? Absolutely insane. And yeah, not something that any of us saw coming, but Piastri's Alpine now. Piastri's Alpine. Wow, silly season has just kicked off. Didn't expect it to start coming in so fast, but here we are. And that brings my weekend wrap video to a wrap. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what moments from this weekend stood out to you and your opinions on Sebastian retiring and, Alonso going to Aston in the comments down below. And if you like the video, then like the video and press that red button to subscribe for more F1 and motorsport related content. And I'll see you all in the next one. Laters.